So one of the most well-known compounds is CBD and CBDa. And so this is really Stacy's specialty. She has a fantastic business in selling these products and producing these products. And so we're really lucky to have her here with us today so she can tell us a little bit about how she produces CBD, CBDa, and what the difference is between CBD and CBDa, as well as what the difference is between those two compounds and Delta-9.
So the plant actually makes CBDa. So the common misperception that we hear in the industry is that CBDa is a minor cannabinoid, or that it's unstable, or I've never heard of it. And the cannabis plant, and we're specifically talking about on the hemp side of the industry, the most prevalent cannabinoid created by the cannabis plant is CBDa. You hear of CBD, but that is something that happens after harvest. So the plant has its own biochemical process. CBGA is kind of the mother cannabinoid that starts with, and then through CBDA synthase, CBDa is created, and that's, like I said, the most prevalent cannabinoid in the hemp plant herself. And then after harvest, through either heat or through chemicals, and most often both, that becomes decarboxylated, which means the carboxyl groups is removed. The bond is broken through either heat or a protic solution like ethanol. And then the byproduct of that chemical reaction is CO2, which is sort of the off-gassing that people talk about. But the two most common types of extraction on the market are CO2, supercritical CO2, which uses really high pressure to concentrate the cannabinoids and other materials from the plant. And then the other one is ethanol. So that protic solution of ethanol is used. The plant is soaked in that ethanol, and from that, the cannabinoids are solubilized and come out. Most, I think both of those types of extraction have basically 3 steps, sometimes 2. So the first step is crude, and they come out what they call a crude oil. And it is typically 50 to 60% cannabinoids, and the balance of that is other plant materials. And it's also of note that in that will come the pesticides or heavy metals or any of the other materials that may be in the plant or in the soil. And whereas hemp is a fantastic remediator of soil for environmental concerns, when you're concentrating on extraction, those will come out in that crude oil as well. And then there's a stage called distillation that refines it a little bit further, and it's going to remove some of the other plant materials and have a greater concentration of CBD. And by then it has decarboxylated into CBD, and that'll be the most prevalent compound at that point. And both of those processes, heat, pressure, and ethanol is used because for most, and I don't know every single processor's unique details, but for most CO2 processors, they then use ethanol to clean it up and get it to a more refined, concentrated form. And then those that choose can take it all the way to an isolate. The term is isolate. It stands for an isolated compound. So you're getting to that one molecular compound of typically CBD. So with that process, they're eliminating the other cannabinoids that grew in the plant, and they're isolating it down to just the one CBD. And that is done usually through solvents. And so the cannabinoids are soluble in the solvents, and then they're distilled down, and it's typically super freezed, where the solvents are then evaporated, and you're left with this refined, isolated compound. And again, there's, I'm sure, nuances in each individual processor and how they do it, but at a high level, that's the processing for most. And then we are kind of the oddball in the industry. So my company, Planetarie, does water extraction. And so we keep the cannabinoids in the raw form that they're grown in the plant. So the plant has CBDA, and then typically THCA, CBGA, maybe CBDVA, or there's a few other of the A's, and the A stands for acid. So The A at the end of CBDA stands for acid. So that's, like I said, the form that it's grown in the plant. When we do the water extraction, all of those cannabinoids come out in the ratios they were grown in the plant, so a full spectrum format, and it stay in their acidic form. We don't use pressure or heat or solvents, so none of those things are chemically changing it. So it does stay in that stable CBDA format, which means it's a different molecule and it has a different effect on the body. And you may not want to go much into the bioavailability and potency and the effect in the body, but just know that it is a different molecule and it does have a little different effect in the body.